This scene, this chapter, is on sense memory and emotional memory. I'd like to frame it by saying in this school of acting, Stanislavski School of Acting, there is a lot of controversy about the correct way to stir emotions. In fact, there's probably as many ways to stir emotions as there are actors who have emotions that they want to stir. Ultimately, you have to find what works for you. Or you have to find a way into yourself where you can bring your emotions out. But in the Stanislavski School of Acting, in what we call the system, it differs sharply, but not entirely, from the method. The method use of emotional memory and sense memory grew out of Stanislavski's early work in the 1920s when he came to America. He was experimenting with sense memory and emotional memory and Ribot's use of affective memory. Ribot was a French scientist who was studying human behavior. And he determined that when you remember something, it's triggered so that by an external stimuli, walking down the streets of Paris on the left bank, smelling croissant and bread baking after a rain and the cobblestones, making a slight noise as you're walking down the street. Maybe there's a mist in the air from the river, the Seine. That may trigger a memory when you were a child. And I remember, as I said that, I remember in San Francisco smelling Langendorf bread coming from the Langendorf bread factory and wafting across the city. So that's affective memory. Something in the image, in the environment, triggers a memory for me. And that's an important part that Stanislavski used for the system. Sense memory, the recall of sensations. What are our sensations? Where do they come from? Where do they come from?
Our experiences.
Okay, and how do we record them?
In our body.
Yeah, our senses, huh? Our sight through our eyes, our smell through our nose, hearing through our ears, through our organs. That's why they're organic, right? Taste through our mouth, touch through our skin. Is there a sixth sense? I'm not asking you if you believe in it. I want to know if there is one.
Most intuition, some people call that.
Intuition. There most definitely is a sixth sense. Every artist who creates does so through their intuition. And it's interesting because Buddhism teaches that intuition is the combination of all the other senses. But yoga teaches that, yes, that's true, but it's also with one very important addition, wisdom. And wisdom is, they say, comes through the medulla oblongata, where we develop conscience and consciousness. It's called in yoga the mouth of God, because this is where yogis hear the sound of Om. They hear it coming into the right ear, and they hear it from the back of the head. And it's also where, for instance, in the Bible, Abraham heard the sound of many rushing waters, which is what Om sounds like. So when you have an intuitive sense, it's like you heard a voice, or you have an impulse, or you get a feeling in your chest or in your gut. You get it physically in some part of your body. It's real. And the whole system, I remember Sonia Moore told me, Philip, don't you know, with her thick Russian accent, Philip, don't you know that the whole technique is based for you to get in touch with and be able to use your intuition. So obviously, Stanislavski thought it was pretty important. How can you create if you don't have your intuition going, right? So sense memory and emotional memory, affective memory, these are all connected to the intuitive aspects of our instrument. So we want to approach them intuitively. We don't want to push them. We don't want to force them. Let's do an exercise. In this exercise, I'm going to read off some key images. I want you to instantly build the first thing that comes into mind, use both personal images, imaginary images, fantastic images, whatever you want to use, horrific, tragic. Don't dwell on too many heavy things. Think of some happy things in your life too. And you're going to build the situation and put your whole body in it psychophysically. Because where we used to divide the elements, this is sense memory, this is concentration. You notice we haven't done that. We've focused on the elements, but you're always using your whole body. You're always physicalizing it. You're always doing it in circumstances. That makes it psychophysical. That's how we condition our instruments to become psychophysical, is by doing everything in circumstances. So I want you to build circumstances. Ready? Good. The first image is the sound of a car screeching, its brakes, and coming to an abrupt stop. Before you hear it, I want you to decide where you are and what you're doing and start to do it. Be active, please. Don't just be sitting in a chair. But if you're sitting in a chair, you're sewing, or you're watching television, or you're reading a book, or you're doing something, pouring a glass of water, or you're on the phone. So we've established that there is a sixth sense, right? Let's do an exercise now where I want you to psychophysically use your whole body, to use wonder and evaluation, everything, but behave just the way you would behave in life. One of the problems when you start to look at images is you get fixed on those images and you forget to act. No, put them aside, put your attention on what you're doing, and just check to see if images are there. Okay? I'm going to read out these various scenarios. You build the circumstances, make them active. You are doing something actively. You decide on the action. When suddenly the sound of a screeching car is heard outside, depending on your circumstances, I want you to create an adaptation, an adjustment. Treat it as an obstacle, maybe personally. And then you hear it comes to a screeching stop. What do you do? Feel free to use your voice if you would. Okay, let's do it again. Because are you only engaging the necessary muscles? I feel that you are, because normally we might do these one at a time and I would see each person and give them feedback. But as I look around, I can see that you're in control and that you're really thinking. And that's what I'm looking for. How quickly can you assimilate these elements? Let's do it again. Do anything you want. Use your voice if you want, if it's appropriate.
It's the same given circumstances.
Well, if you need to change them, go ahead. I just want you to practice it again so it becomes second nature. Put your attention on the physical side of the action and it will.
Yeah, I'm just watching this room. No. Fuck. Hold on a minute, hold on.
And bring it to end with a final gesture, emotional response.
No, someone.
Final gesture and emotional response. That's very important. Color it with your emotions. Okay. So instead of just asking you, hear a screeching car, you know, when you do it psychophysically and you repeat it, it really comes, doesn't it? It's just like life, isn't it? I mean, almost. It's life-like. It never is life. These are called secondary experiences. Primary experiences would be one that really happens. A secondary stage experience is always secondary. If you have a primary experience on stage, you're in trouble, because that means Hamlet really has run you through. You know what I mean? That's a primary experience. Okay, the next one is the sound of familiar music playing in the distance. Again, put yourself in a different situation. Just move to a different location.
The sound of what? Familiar.
The sound of familiar music playing in the distance. It could be awful music. You decide. You're active, and then you hear the music, and you evaluate. Again, the sense of sound. It's appropriate to use your voice, do so, and follow all your impulses. Let's do it once again. And this time you're going to end it with a final gesture, so I'll know that everybody's ended.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice, John. Final gesture. The final gesture could be as Michelle's is. It could be just continuing. Yeah. That's very nice. I know you're doing the right work now, because if I saw you doing that in a film or in real life, I would just believe you. Your eyes are aglow. When you do the right work, your face glows. Did you know that? Sonia used to say, when you do the right work, you look more beautiful, more handsome than when you do the wrong work. Because something in you opens up and you start to shine. Okay? We all know what that something is. The next one is the sense of smell. The sound of a mouse scratching in a corner. Again, someplace else, move someplace physically different every time. That'll force you to do something a little different.
So what are we smelling?
Did I say sound, smell? I'm sorry. The smell of a mouse scratching.
They smell
Actually, when
horrible.
they're dead, they smell really bad.
Okay, the smell of a dead mouse somewhere or rat. Okay, well, maybe you're cleaning out drawers or an old closet or up in an attic. You decide on the circumstances. Remember, the more truthful you are physically, the more you will stir the sense memory. Oh, that's good. Everybody's getting organically involved. I really believed you, and I believed all of you. It works, doesn't it? So when you don't isolate the element, but you incorporate it psychophysically in a situation, it's easier to see the images and to recall the sensations, right?
I heard that our olfactory senses are some of our strongest senses.
They are. They are.
It's the quickest sense memory. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I know that the most important one is actually sound, because everything is sound vibration, more so even than sight. People who go blind often develop extrasensory perception with their ears. Does that make any sense? Okay, the next one. A pine forest after a light rainfall.
To smell it?
Well, it's the scent of it. I want you to recall that scent. Build your circumstances. Keep naming the event too. Just give it little names. Notice the sensations as they come over your whole body. refreshing you. New one, the taste of bitter lemon. Well, maybe you're going to drink something and then it's in there. You might not have known. It could be an obstacle, or it can be something medicinal. You build your circumstances. It's fine to use your voices. That's good. Final gesture. Tequila.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good final gesture tonight, doesn't it? The taste of honey on peanut butter. Well, you may not like it. That's okay. So where are you at where you're going to eat peanut butter with honey? Maybe it's on a cracker. Maybe it's just on a spoon. If it's a metal spoon, you'll have that sensation in your mouth. Okay.
Michelle, I know where you are, and that's not even fair. Just the laughter.
She's in Peru. She's in Peru. You're so bad.
That's something else.
Bring it to a conclusion. Final gesture. The rough touch of sandpaper. The smooth touch of velvet. Actually, all of you are just about warmed up now. Because Grotowski says you have to work several hours until all your defenses are down. And that's when your real creative work starts. I can see it happening. You're just kind of doing it now, not thinking so much. Good. Now, in the next exercise, very good. The next exercise, it deals with emotional memory and how do we stir it healthfully. We no longer use it directly. We don't dwell on past things, get our emotions up, and then go on stage acting emotionally, because people don't do that in life, unless you're, being phony about something. How it happens in life is because it means something to you, the circumstances, the environment and the stimulus in it simply triggers our emotions. But on stage or in front of a camera, when we're acting, we have to kind of do it backwards. We have to find how we would behave. We have to think of the circumstances. We have to find some analogous experiences in our own life. And once you find the images from analogous experience, you don't need to dwell on them to stir those emotions. You just need to start fulfilling the action. If you need to come on stage or go on camera with that emotion, if the scene starts that way, you have to begin it off camera and off stage. So what we want to do is we want to take the memory of our emotions and we want to find behavior that then is appropriate for our situation and eventually for the characters we're portraying. And then through that behavior, bring our emotions up. Stanislavski used it the other way around at first, but he found that actors were stressed out. Some of them were getting emotional breakdowns. And he said there must be a healthier way. In fact, he said you can never dive or delve, are his words, into your subconscious without there being dire consequences. So even if you're doing a healthy approach, which he finally discovered in the method of physical actions, there's still that danger. You have to be really careful with your instrument. So, I want you now, I'm going to give you a seed of an emotional state, a seed, like a character has a seed. I want you to sculpt your bodies around that seed. And only think of how you can express that seed physically into a sculpture. So basically you shouldn't be sitting unless you're like Rodin, sculpture of the thinker. You know, or you're using the chair as something else. You understand? You can use the chair, but I want it to be like an active sculpture. Ready? Okay. Hell and torment is the seed. Hell and torment. Sculpt your body to express that in a realistic pose. Now, that can be realistic. You know, what's it, but if you're in a cave and it's falling in on you? Think in terms of your own experience to justify it inwardly, but put your attention on the physical and on the spine. A little bit more on your spine. This part of your body is not quite there. So if you need to use that, you really need to use it with your body. And I'm not getting that. I'm getting angelic here. I'm not getting hell.
Hell.
Yeah, I'm not getting that. I don't see it.
You want hell?
Torment. What has just happened is tormenting you. So what you want to do is use your torso. The idea is to use asymmetrical imagery. Yeah. Sculpture, it has to be expressive on all sides of the body. Oh, much better. Much, much better. Next one. Joy. Jubilation. This is the seed emotion. It's the kernel. Again, think of your whole body, how to express it. Don't worry about the feelings. Sculpt your body. Start with your feet. Go up your legs, your torso, your hands. The hands should be the final thing, unless you find them right away. Joy and jubilation. Again, the two of you need to, you're just kind of like, you need to be asymmetrical. Your feet planted one way. Maybe your torso twisted. Think in terms of, oh my God, you know? $1 million bills falling down from the sky. You know, think in terms of your whole body and make your movements asymmetrical. This is asymmetrical. This is good. This is symmetrical. Symmetrical is dead. Asymmetrical is alive. Okay? Tranquility. Peace and tranquility. Let your body lead the way. Don't think so much with your heads, guys. Let your body. It'll help you, John, if you use the wall in your situation. Are you able to stir that state, Melinda? Are you able to stir it, Jess?
Yes.
Caridad, Jan?
Yes.
John?
No,
Em?
I'm getting close.
What about you, John Reese?
Getting close.
Getting close? The problem is you're not certain exactly where you are, huh?
No, I don't. I'm not connecting to tranquility.
Think about that. It's okay. Whatever you experience, you're going to write down in your journal as, hey, why not? You know, and then you're going to look at that. Okay. Anger. You'll connect to that.
Yeah.
Men have no trouble with that one. Maybe you might want to work off of somebody else with this one. Because it might help you, like if the three of you are together, or the two of you are together, or two of you are together. You know, it might help you to have a stimulus in the environment of another person. So now you need to treat that person as like somebody you have been angry with, to treat as, and sculpt your body to express it. Good. Greed. Greed is also like hunger and lust. You get greedy, you know. I want more food. I want more sex. I'm hungry and I'm lustful. That's good, John. That's a good sculpture. You having trouble with it, Jan? This is interesting because when we go to seed emotions, not just being emotional, but seed and with the body, it really tells us where we have resistance. And so you just need to look at that. You just need to look at it. Because, well, we'll talk about this after when we have our question and answer. The last one is, the second one, realization. In a moment of realization. What are you realizing? What comes? How does it change things? Good. Freedom. You can do this as a group if you like. Do a sculpture where I can see everybody.
Okay.
Imagine there's a camera out here, and everyone needs to be able to be seen by it. And it's freedom. Freedom. It looks like the village people in YMCA. Play off of one another without speaking so that you can read one another's thoughts. What do you think you are expressing freedom for? Come on, focus. Really think together just for a moment. Pick up on one another. You can, if you need to look at one another, that's fine. Caridad, what is your freedom for?
Something incredible. I don't know. It's amazing though. It's like, yeah.
John?
Winning the Democrats winning the House in November.
Well, now everybody has something common. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much. It'll stop.